The stars outside the Valken trade ring glowed faintly red, reflecting off the station's metallic surface. Inside, thousands of aliens carried on with trade and chatter, unaware that danger was moving closer every passing hour. Terran of the Valken couldn't sit still. Every corridor felt smaller, every shadow heavier. He knew what was coming. He had seen enough galactic reports and heard enough whispers in the void to understand one simple truth. Humans never forgot, and never forgave when someone touched their young. But no one on the station believed him. He rushed again to the office of Governor Razek, the one who had authorized the smuggler's arrival. The guards at the door blocked his path. Terran's voice shook, but he didn't stop. "Tell the governor I must speak to him now." The guards exchanged looks, but finally allowed him through. Razek was standing near the giant window, watching the station's trade ships move in and out of the docking bays. His golden armor gleamed in the red light of the dying star. "Ah, Officer Terran," Razek said with mock politeness. "I hope this is important." "It is more than important, Governor," Terran said quickly. "You must release the human children, immediately." Razek turned slowly. "Still that topic?" "You worry too much." Terran clenched his fists. "I sent warnings, I begged." "You don't understand what will happen when the humans find out." Razek smirked. "You think they'll attack a Valken trade ring? This place is protected by 30 defense ships and 1,000 station cannons. The humans won't risk war for a handful of children." "They will," Terran said firmly. "Because they are human." Razek laughed loudly. "Do not tell me old DEATHWORLD stories, Terran. I have met humans. They are traders, miners, and diplomats now. The galaxy has tamed them." Terran's voice turned cold. "You cannot tame a storm, Governor." The governor's amusement faded slightly. "You speak boldly for one of my officers." "Because I have seen what they can do," Terran replied. "Do you remember the Kalar incident? When pirates tried to steal a human medical convoy?" Razek frowned. "A myth. It's not a myth," Terran shouted. "The pirates disappeared within 6 hours. No trace left but ashes. The humans didn't even claim credit. They just collected their people and went home." The governor looked unconvinced. "Even if true, that was long ago." Terran shook his head. "To humans, their young are sacred. You took what they protect most. If they come here, this station will burn." Razek raised his hand, signaling the end of the conversation. "Enough, I will not release the cargo." "Cargo?" Terran's voice cracked with disbelief. "They are children." "Then they will fetch a higher price," the governor said coldly. Terran stared at him, speechless. He realized that Razek wasn't just foolish. He was arrogant enough to think the humans would negotiate. Terran turned away without another word and left the chamber, his heart pounding with dread. Far away, light years across the void, the HSS Resolute fleet moved through hyperspace. Commander Alara Hayes stood before a holographic map that showed their path toward the Valken ring. Around her, officers worked quietly, the air filled with tension and purpose. Lieutenant Armin reported. "Signal confirmed, Commander. The message we received was authentic. It came from a Valken officer." Ilara nodded. "Then there's hope. Someone inside wants to help." "Do you think the children are still alive?" another officer asked. Ilara's expression softened for a moment. "If they are, we'll bring them home." She turned back to the map. "How long until arrival?" 6 hours, ma'am." Ilara took a deep breath. "Send word to the other ships. Silent approach. No lights, no signals. We strike only if we must," the officer saluted. "Yes, Commander. Outside the viewport." The stars stretched into lines as the fleet raced faster than light, 5 human ships moving like silent hunters through the dark. Back on the Valken station, Terran was not done trying. He knew that open protest would only get him arrested, so he began to work quietly. He visited the lower levels where the smugglers kept their cargo. The guards there were lazy and overconfident. Terran walked past them with a data pad, pretending to check the docking records. He reached the cargo cell where the human children were held. Through the small window he saw them, small figures huddled together, scared but calm. One of them, a boy with short brown hair, looked up and met his eyes through the glass. Terran felt something strange, a mix of pity and admiration. Despite their fear, the children didn't cry. They sat close, whispering to each other, their faces determined. He pressed a hand against the door. "You will be safe soon," he whispered, though they couldn't hear him. Then he turned and left before anyone could notice. In the command chamber, alarms suddenly beeped. A communications officer ran up to Governor Razek. "Sir, long-range sensors detect unusual readings in nearby space." Razek frowned. "Explain. Distortion fields. Possibly human in origin." Razek waved his hand. "Ignore them. Humans send traders through this region often." "But sir," the officer said nervously, "the energy pattern matches military drives." That made Razek pause. He turned slowly to the display. 5 faint signals were approaching, moving in tight formation. They were still far away but closing fast. "Impossible," he muttered. "Humans wouldn't." Terran burst into the chamber. "They're here, aren't they?" Razek turned sharply. "You again?" "They're coming," Terran said. "You still have time to release the children. If you do it now, maybe they'll show mercy." The governor glared. "You overestimate them." "No, you underestimate them," Terran replied quietly. Hours later, in the dark of space, the HSS Resolute fleet exited hyperspace. The giant Valken ring hung before them, glowing lights, spinning habitats, and dozens of docked ships. It looked peaceful, but Alara's instincts told her otherwise. "Stealth mode active," the officer reported. Alara nodded. "Good. Bring up the tactical scan." The holographic image of the station appeared. Thousands of life signs flickered across it. Then the computer identified 6 faint human signals deep within the structure. Alara's heart pounded. "We found them." The bridge fell silent. Every soldier knew what that meant. The children were alive. "Prepare boarding teams," she ordered. "No open fire unless attacked. We go in fast and silent." "Yes, Commander." Back on the station, Terran was pacing in the lower corridors when the lights flickered. The air felt heavier, static running through the floor. He stopped, looking up at the ceiling. The hum of the station's generators faltered for a moment, and then came the faint, rhythmic echo of something striking the hull. "Not weapons. Docking clamps. They're here," Terran whispered. He ran to the nearest control panel and saw the warning light. "Unauthorized boarding detected." "Attention all security units," a voice blared through the station speakers. "Unknown ships approaching. Prepare for defense." The corridors erupted into chaos. Guards ran toward the hangars, shouting orders. Merchants screamed and fled. The whole station turned into a storm of confusion. In the middle of it all, Terran moved the other way, toward the cargo cells. He knew what he had to do. Inside the station's hangar, human ships appeared, sleek, black, and silent. They didn't open fire. Instead, they deployed small pods that attached to the station's surface. Human Marines in silver-gray armor poured out, their movements quick and precise. They moved like ghosts, disabling defense systems without explosions, using EMP charges and stun pulses. Within minutes, half the station's sensors went dark. Governor Razek stood in the command center, furious. "Fire the cannons!" The officers obeyed, but the moment they tried, their controls died. The human Marines had already shut down the weapon systems. Razek slammed his fist against the console. "Who disabled my defenses?" "Humans," Terran said, appearing in the doorway. "I warned you." The governor turned in rage. "You betrayed your own kind." "I saved them," Terran said simply. "And maybe, if we're lucky, I saved the rest of us too." Far outside the station, the HSS Resolute waited silently. Commander Alara watched the feeds from her Marines' helmets. They were moving through the station, marking zones clear. Her focus stayed on one goal: the children. "Team 2, confirm location," she said through the comms. A voice replied, "Visual on the targets. 6 human juveniles secured. No injuries." Alara finally exhaled, her shoulders relaxing for the first time in days. "Bring them home." The Marines began extraction. The station guards, realizing resistance was useless, started surrendering. The humans hadn't fired a single lethal shot, yet they controlled the entire structure. Back inside, Terran stood near the corridor as human soldiers passed by. One of them glanced at him, nodded in acknowledgement, and moved on. He felt strange respect in that small gesture. The children were carried out safely, their eyes wide with wonder as they saw their rescuers. The boy Leo spotted Terran and smiled. "You helped us," he said quietly. Terran managed a small smile. "You helped yourselves. Humans always do." Far above, as the human ships prepared to leave with the rescued children, Governor Razek sat in his darkened office, defeated. The mighty Valken ring had been taken over without a single human casualty. and Terran's words echoed in his mind. You took human children? Are you insane? The Veilkan trade ring was in chaos. Shuttles tried to flee. Cargo ships scrambled for launch permission and alarms screamed through every deck. The entire station trembled as emergency lights flashed red. Governor Razek stood in the command center, his golden armor now dull under the crimson light. His tail flicked in anger while dozens of officers reported panicked updates. Governor, several of our defense ships are refusing to fight. Docking bays have been breached. Unknown forces are moving through the station. Our communication relays have gone silent. Razek slammed his clawed hand on the console. Fools, engage them! They cannot take our station. But deep inside, fear began to eat at him. The humans hadn't fired any heavy weapons. They hadn't destroyed the station. They had simply taken control, quietly, precisely, completely. It felt like a hunter walking through the dark, confident, calm, and merciless. Meanwhile, in the lower levels, Terran guided a group of human Marines through the maze of corridors. The Marines moved without sound, their armor reflecting dim lights. Their eyes glowed behind dark visors. Terran had never seen soldiers like them. They weren't loud or arrogant like other species' armies. They were focused, like a storm waiting to strike. This way, Terran whispered, leading them toward the cargo sector. The children were held here before the lockdown. The lead Marine nodded. Copy that. Stay behind us. They turned a corner and came face to face with a squad of Veilkan guards. The aliens raised their weapons in panic. Stop! Drop your... Before the guard could finish, the humans moved. In less than 2 seconds, stun pulses flew from their rifles. Blue flashes filled the air and every guard collapsed unconscious. Terran froze in disbelief. You didn't even... No need, the Marine said simply. We're not here to kill. Terran stared. The human's calmness frightened him more than violence ever could. Far above, in orbit, the HSS Resolute loomed beside the Veilkan ring like a shadow of judgment. Inside its bridge, Commander Alara Hayes stood watching through the panoramic window. Her eyes were hard and cold. Status of the boarding teams? She asked. All teams report success, Commander, replied Lieutenant Armin. Station defenses are down. Resistance minimal. Good, Alara said. Begin direct communication with the governor. Moments later, the holographic screen flickered to life. Governor Razek's image appeared, his face pale, his arrogance gone. Behind him, the command center looked half empty, officers hiding or frozen in fear. This is Commander Alara Hayes of the Terran Defense Fleet, Alara said. Her voice was calm but carried sharp authority. You have something that belongs to us. Razek tried to regain his pride. You have no right to invade Veilkan territory. You are violating. Alara raised a hand, cutting him off. Return the children. The room went silent. Even the alien officers behind Razek stopped breathing. Razek blinked, his mouth dry. You already have them, don't you? Alara didn't deny it. We do, but this isn't about the children anymore. It's about what you did. Razek's voice shook. It was a misunderstanding. A trade mistake. Alara's eyes narrowed. A mistake? You call abducting 6 human children a mistake? Razek stammered. I didn't know. Then you know now, she interrupted sharply. And you will answer for it. Razek's tail twitched nervously. If you harm me, the Galactic Council will... The Council? Alara's tone turned ice cold. We informed them an hour ago. They said, and I quote, do what you must. Razek froze, realizing he was alone. In the lower decks, Terran led the Marines into the last chamber. The door opened with a hiss and the 6 children ran forward, eyes wide in relief. Mira, one of the Marines called softly, kneeling down. The little girl ran into his arms. Tears filled her eyes. You came. Of course we came, he said gently, his voice full of warmth. We always do. The other children smiled, though they were exhausted. They clung to the humans like family. Even Terran, watching from behind, felt emotion stir inside his chest. One of the boys, Leo, looked up at him. You're the alien who sent the message, right? Terran nodded slowly. Yes, Leo smiled. Thank you. Terran's throat tightened. He didn't know what to say. Just stay close to them, he whispered. They'll keep you safe. Back in the control center, Alara ended the call with the governor. Then she turned to her crew. Transmit this across all Veilkan frequencies. The communications officer hesitated. Ma'am, are you sure? Yes, they need to understand. A few seconds later, every screen and terminal on the Veilkan ring flickered to life. Ilara's calm face appeared everywhere, in the markets, in the hangars, in the homes. "This is Commander Ilara Hayes of the Terran Defense Fleet," her voice echoed. "We have come for our children. No harm will come to those who stand down. But let this be clear to all. Humanity protects its own, always." Every alien on the station froze. Merchants stopped mid-sentence. Engineers dropped their tools. For the first time in living memory, the galaxy heard a human warning spoken not in anger, but in quiet promise. Terran heard the message as he escorted the children to the extraction point. He felt chills run down his spine. Even without shouting or threats, the humans made the entire station obey. "This is why we feared them," he whispered to himself. Governor Razek paced back and forth, his mind spinning. His guards had fled. His weapons were useless. The humans controlled everything. He turned to the last officer beside him. "Send a signal to the council. Tell them we surrender the station." The officer looked at him in disbelief. "They already know, sir. They told us to cooperate." "What?" "The Galactic Council has ordered all Veilkin forces to stand down. They said they will not defend you." Razek's eyes widened. His allies had abandoned him. Outside, through the window, the HSS Resolute turned slowly, its massive hull casting a shadow over the station. Every alien who looked at it understood one thing: humanity wasn't to be trifled with. Inside the docking bay, the human Marines formed a circle around the children. Their armor gleamed as they moved toward their transport shuttle. The children held onto their hands, small fingers gripping strong gloves. As they passed, alien workers lowered their heads, some in fear, others in silent respect. None dared speak. Terran stood nearby, watching. His heart felt heavy yet full of strange peace. He had done the right thing, though he knew he might never be forgiven by his people. A female Marine stopped beside him. Her visor retracted, revealing calm brown eyes. "You're Terran?" He nodded. She smiled softly. "Commander Hayes asked me to thank you. Without your message, we might have been too late." Terran looked down, surprised. "I only did what anyone should do." She shook her head. "No, most wouldn't." Then she saluted him, a human gesture of respect, before boarding the shuttle with the children. Terran stood still as the engines roared. The shuttle lifted off, leaving trails of light behind. He watched it disappear into the void, carrying the children back to safety. Hours later, the human fleet prepared to depart. The Veilkin station hung quiet, its lights dimmed. The once proud trade hub now looked humbled and broken. On the bridge of the Resolute, Ilara watched the view one last time. Lieutenant Armin approached. "Commander, all teams are aboard." "The children are safe," Ilara nodded slowly. "And the station?" "Disabled but intact. No casualties." She allowed herself a small smile. "Good, humanity doesn't need more enemies. Just lessons remembered." Armin looked curious. "Do you think they'll ever try this again?" Ilara's eyes stayed on the stars. "Not for 1,000 years." Back on the station, Terran walked alone through empty corridors. The governor had been taken into custody by his own people, waiting for council judgment. The traders whispered about what had happened, how humans came like ghosts and left without firing a single lethal shot. Terran stopped near the window where the stars burned red. He whispered quietly, "They came for their young, and they didn't destroy us. That's mercy." He closed his eyes. In that moment, he understood why other species called humans terrifying. Not because of their strength, but because of their heart. They were not conquerors. They were protectors. And when they protected something, nothing in the galaxy could stop them. Far away, on the HSS Resolute, the rescued children slept safely in their quarters. Mira, the youngest, woke for a moment and looked out the window. The stars drifted by slowly, calm and bright. She smiled softly and whispered, "We're going home." Outside, the fleet glided through the endless dark, silent and powerful, a promise written in steel. Humanity had come, and the galaxy would never forget it. The Veilkin trade ring had fallen silent after the arrival of the humans. Corridors that were once filled with chatter, bartering, and laughter were now empty. The hum of engines and machinery persisted, but the life inside the station had frozen. Merchants hid in corners. Guards huddled in small groups. Every being on the station seemed to feel it, a presence unlike anything they had faced before. In orbit, the HSS Resolute and its fleet hovered like black shadows. Their arrival had been quiet, precise, and deliberate. They had rescued the human children, and now they waited for further instructions. Commander Alara Hayes stood on the bridge of the Resolute, watching the station through panoramic windows. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were sharp, cold, and unwavering. She had not come merely to retrieve children. She had come to send a message that would echo across the galaxy. Lieutenant Armin approached quietly. "Commander, the station is holding. Governor Razek refuses to surrender fully. He's barricaded himself in the central command hub with a small guard squad." Alara turned her gaze to him. "Then we do what we always do. We do not destroy unless necessary. We disable, we control, and we liberate. The children are safe. That is all that matters right now." Armin nodded, but he could feel the tension in the room. Every officer knew the stories about humans. Fierce protectors of their young. Deathworlders who survived impossible odds. Capable of incredible destruction if pushed. Inside the station, Terran of the Veilkin was moving quickly. He knew that the governor's defiance could provoke further chaos. His 4 eyes scanned every corridor. He was no longer a bystander. He was a participant in a human operation, and he knew his role was dangerous. "Terran," said a young Marine as he passed him, "we'll need your help to reach the command hub. There's a secure door with alien codes only a Veilkin can access." Terran swallowed hard. "I can do it. Follow me." The group moved silently, guided by Terran through side corridors that bypassed the main stations and surveillance zones. The children were safely held behind a temporary shielded room, guarded by 2 Marines ready to move them if the situation worsened. Meanwhile, Governor Razek sat in the command hub, his hands shaking as he tapped his claws on the console. Every message coming from the humans and every disturbance on the station fueled a growing panic. "Reports say they control the lower decks," he snapped at an officer. "How is this possible?" "They are only a few ships." The officer hesitated. "Sir, humans are not like other species. They do not fight like us." They are what?" Razek barked. "Relentless, efficient, merciless if provoked, but precise and protective if they only intend to rescue," the officer admitted. Razek's tail flicked nervously. "You speak nonsense." "It is not nonsense, sir. I have watched the videos of their previous battles. Entire fleets vanished in hours with no warning. They do not negotiate. They simply do what must be done." The governor turned toward the holographic map. Ships moved in silent patterns across the station. Their paths were smooth, deliberate. Every alarm he had tried to trigger had been neutralized. He realized with dread he had underestimated them. On the ground, Terran and the Marines arrived at the massive security door guarding the command hub. Terran accessed the control panel, fingers moving quickly over the alien codes. With a soft beep, the door slid open. "Done," Terran whispered, "but be careful." "They expect resistance," the Marines nodded, rifles ready. Terran stepped aside and allowed them to move forward. He could hear the governor shouting inside, demanding loyalty and compliance from his officers. The humans entered the command hub silently. Every step was calculated. No weapon was fired unless absolutely necessary. Within moments, the guards had been stunned or locked in containment zones. The governor stood alone, frozen, unable to comprehend the speed and precision of the human soldiers. Commander Alara Hayes stepped forward from the shadows. Her armor gleamed faintly under the station lights. "Governor Razek," she said, voice calm but authoritative. "Your actions endangered children. That is unacceptable." Razek swallowed hard. It was not my intention." "You chose to ignore warnings," Alara interrupted. "And now you must face the consequences." She motioned to her lieutenant, and 2 Marines activated energy restraints, holding Razek in place. Outside, the rest of the station watched in silent fear. Rumors spread instantly. Humans had arrived, and the governor was captured without a fight. No one dared resist. The energy of the humans radiated through every hall and corridor, not just as strength but as calm certainty. Terran watched from the doorway, his chest tight. He realized the galaxy had underestimated humans for centuries. Their children were their heart. And anyone who threatened that heart would face their full power. He had always thought of humans as clever and strong. But seeing them in action, watching them move without chaos, without hesitation, filled him with awe and a strange fear. Commander Alara turned her attention back to the children. "Are they all safe?" she asked. "Yes, Commander," a Marine replied. "No injuries. Minimal trauma." "They are calm." The children looked up at her, small faces filled with awe and relief. One of the girls, Mira, whispered softly, "You came for us." Ilara smiled gently. "Of course. You are never alone. Not while we exist." Terran could not help but feel warmth in his chest as he watched the interaction. These humans, so deadly, so unstoppable in battle, were capable of immense kindness and care. That duality was what made them so terrifying to other species. Back in the command hub, Governor Razek's officers began to emerge from hiding. They approached the humans cautiously, eyes wide in fear. They had watched their governor fail, seen the children rescued, and understood that resistance was futile. Ilara spoke calmly, projecting her voice so every officer could hear. "The children are safe. The station remains intact. No one is harmed if they cooperate. This is not punishment. It is justice." Slowly, the officers lowered their weapons, heads bowed. Terran noticed a quiet muttering, alien whispers filled with awe and disbelief. "These humans, they are not like us." "They are protectors," Terran muttered to himself, "and nothing will stop them when it comes to what they love." Outside the station, small ships and transports began leaving quietly, carrying alien civilians to safety under the protection of human patrols. The humans had not destroyed anything unnecessary. Every life that could be saved was preserved, Terran observed quietly. This is incredible," he whispered. He had thought the humans would be like other species, violent, angry, merciless. But they were calm, disciplined, and precise, acting only with purpose. Commander Ilara moved back onto the bridge of the Resolute once all children were aboard and safe. She glanced at Terran, who had come to witness the departure. "You did well," she said simply. "Without your warning, we could have been too late." Terran shook his head. "I only did what I could." Ilara smiled faintly. "Most wouldn't." As the human fleet moved away from the station, the governor was placed in a secure containment module. Terran remained near him, watching. He felt a sense of relief mixed with fear. This event would change the galaxy's view of humans forever. Razek muttered angrily, "They won't stop here." "This isn't over." Terran shook his head. "They protect what is theirs. They do not hunt for power. They protect family. That is their strength." The governor scowled but said nothing more. Terran's words lingered in the air, heavy and undeniable. In orbit above the Valken ring, Commander Ilara looked out at the stars. Her voice, quiet but strong, echoed across the bridge. "They must understand," she whispered. "Humanity is not to be trifled with. We do not start wars, but we always finish them, especially when our young are harmed." The stars stretched endlessly, silent witnesses to the humans' departure. Below, the Valken trade ring had survived without destruction. But every being who witnessed it, from guards to merchants to the governor, understood one simple truth. Touch human children, and you invite the full force of humanity. There is no escape. The stars stretched endlessly across the void as the HSS Resolute fleet carried the rescued children back to Mars. Silence reigned on the bridge, but it was a heavy silence, filled with relief, focus, and the weight of what had just occurred. Commander Ilara Hayes stood at the front, her hands clasped behind her back. She watched the children's transport pods through the window, each small figure safe and calm. The fear that had once filled their eyes was gone, replaced by exhaustion, awe, and a newfound trust in humanity's power. Lieutenant Armin broke the silence. "Commander, we are nearing Mars orbit. Life signs are stable. The children are unharmed." Ilara nodded, her lips curving slightly in the faintest of smiles. "Good. Begin preparations for docking. We bring them home safely, just as promised." Behind her, the crew worked silently, yet each movement was precise. There were no celebrations, no excessive noise, only quiet determination. The humans on the fleet carried the weight of responsibility, and they never faltered. In the lower corridors, Terran walked beside the Marines. The Valken officer could hardly believe what he had witnessed. He had once thought humans were strange, perhaps reckless in their courage, but now he understood. They were more than strong. They were absolute protectors. The youngest child, Mira, looked up at Terran. "Are we really going home?" she asked, her voice small. "Yes," Terran said softly. "Humans always keep their word." Leo, the boy who had first pressed the distress beacon, smiled at him. You helped us too. You warned them. Terran shook his head. I only did what was right. You are safe because of the humans. And because of your own courage. The children glanced at one another, then at the Marines. There was quiet pride in their eyes. They had survived something terrifying and had seen the full strength of humanity firsthand. Back on the bridge of the Resolute, Commander Alara activated the communications channel to Mars Colony New Horizon. The children's parents were waiting, anxious and desperate. Their eyes had been scanning the stars for any sign of the missing, praying that they would be found alive. Alara, one mother said, her voice trembling. Are they safe? They are safe, Alara said clearly. All 6 of your children are unharmed and will arrive shortly. Please remain calm. They will be home soon. Tears streamed down the parents' faces and relief filled the voice of each one. The worry and fear that had gripped the colony for hours began to melt away. Thank you, the father whispered. We didn't believe anyone could do this. Alara's expression remained steady. Humanity protects its own. Always. The words carried weight. They were not a boast, but a truth the galaxy had already learned. Meanwhile, Terran received a private message from Commander Alara. Terran, your actions saved lives. Meet me on the bridge. I want to speak with you before we depart. He hesitated but followed the directions. When he entered, he found the commander looking at him with calm yet deep respect. You helped, she said simply. I did what I could, Terran replied. I am no hero. Alara shook her head. No, you acted when most would have stayed silent. You understood the consequences. That is courage. That is heroism. Terran felt a strange warmth in his chest. He had never been praised in this way. Thank you, he murmured. Alara's eyes softened slightly. The galaxy will remember today's and your role in it. You helped teach an important lesson. Terran looked out the viewport at the stars. A lesson that will be remembered by every being who crosses paths with humans. Alara nodded. Yes, and for those who threaten our young. The lesson is simple. There is no escape from humanity's protection. In orbit above Mars, the children's pods detached from the main ships and moved toward the colony's landing stations. The shuttle doors opened and parents rushed forward, embracing their children tightly. Tears of relief, joy, and love filled the docking bay. Mira ran into her mother's arms, Leo into his father's. The small group of humans who had rescued them stood quietly, letting the reunion happen. They had done their duty, and it was complete. Terran watched from the back, feeling the satisfaction of a task fulfilled. The children were safe. The humans had delivered justice without unnecessary destruction. And in the galaxy, word of the operation would travel faster than any ship. News of the rescue spread quickly. Every major station, outpost, and colony that traded with the Velkin Ring heard the story. The message was simple and terrifying. Humans protect their own. Always. You do not touch their children without consequence. Even the Galactic Council, which had observed the operation from a distance, understood that the humans had done something unprecedented. They had acted decisively, precisely, and with moral clarity. A clear warning was sent to all species across the stars. Months later, Terran returned to his home station in the Velkin sector. Though still a loyal officer, he carried a new respect for humanity, one that tempered fear with admiration. When other Velkin asked about the humans, he only said one thing. They do not start wars. They do not destroy without cause, but if their young are harmed, nothing in the galaxy can stop them. Those who heard the words shivered and whispered them to others. In every corner of Velkin space, the legend of humans and their children spread, a story of power mixed with mercy. On Mars, life slowly returned to normal. The children returned to school, laughed in the corridors, and played in the gardens. But they carried with them a new sense of respect and awe for those who had risked everything to save them, and for the strength of their species. Commander Alara Hayes stood quietly on the observation deck watching the colony below. She thought of the fleet, now preparing for routine patrols. She thought of Terran, the alien who had helped, and the lessons that had been learned. A small voice called out behind her. It was a young officer. Commander, do you think they'll ever forget this? Alara smiled faintly. No, she said softly. They will never forget what humanity is capable of, nor will they forget the mercy that accompanies it. And that in the end is our true strength. Terran walked beside the observation window. Commander, he said quietly, I've never met a people like yours. Ilara looked at him. Most haven't, she replied. Few ever will. But those who do, they will remember. Always. The stars stretched endlessly before them, calm and bright. The galaxy had learned a lesson that would echo for generations. Never threaten the young of humanity. It was a lesson written not in war, but in courage, mercy, and unwavering resolve. The human fleet departed Mars' orbit, returning to its duties across the galaxy. Yet every species that had heard of the rescue would think twice before underestimating them again. Humanity had come for its own. And humanity had shown that nothing, not even fear itself, could stand in its way. The children slept peacefully that night, dreaming of home. They were safe. They were loved. And the galaxy, in silent awe, had witnessed the truth of humans, fierce, protective, and unstoppable, when it came to what they cherished most. And somewhere deep in space, Terran smiled. For the first time he understood what it truly meant to witness humans in action. The galaxy had learned the lesson, and it would not forget. The vast emptiness of space was never truly empty. Between the stars there were regions filled with energy storms, old wreckage, and mysteries older than recorded time. One such place was known across the galaxy as the Volaris Expanse, a glowing cloud of blue and silver dust stretching over 10 light-years. For 1,000 years, every race that tried to enter it vanished without a trace. Their ships were torn apart by invisible weapons, or they simply disappeared from all sensors. Because of this, the Galactic Council declared it a restricted region. Every ship that approached the expanse was warned by a strong transmission. Turn back. The Volaris Expanse is forbidden. No species has permission to enter. And so, for centuries, no one dared. The galaxy accepted it as a law of survival. But one day, a message reached every council channel at once. A human vessel had just entered the Forbidden Zone, without permission. The ship's name was Horizon Spear, a mid-sized exploration cruiser built by the United Earth Fleet. It was designed for long journeys, with thick armor and strong engines. Its captain, Elias Ward, was known as a quiet but fearless man. His crew of 20 humans had one simple goal: to chart unknown systems for colonization. But the coordinates they were now heading toward were not on any official list. The Horizon Spear moved silently through the black void, its engines leaving a faint silver trail. Inside, the crew felt uneasy. The expanse glowed in the distance like a living storm. "Captain, we're approaching the restricted boundary," said Lieutenant Mira Hale, the ship's pilot. "Council beacons are active. They're warning us to turn around." Captain Ward stood at the bridge window, hands behind his back. "How many warnings so far?" "7, sir," Mira replied. "All automated. They'll report us to the council within minutes." Ward gave a slow nod. "Let them. We're not here to break laws, we're here to discover truth." The crew exchanged worried looks. The ship's scientist, Dr. Ray Tan, leaned over her console. "Sir, energy readings ahead are unstable. If we cross that boundary, our shields may not hold." "I know," Ward said quietly, "but we've followed every trace of this signal for months. It keeps calling us here. You've all seen it. Those repeating coordinates in ancient binary code." Ray nodded slowly. "Yes, but who could send such a signal from inside the expanse? No ship has ever survived there." Captain Ward turned his gaze toward the glowing mist. "Maybe someone who wants us to." The Horizon Spear crossed the invisible border. Instantly, alarms blared. The hull vibrated. Lights flickered across the bridge. "Shields are fluctuating," Mira shouted. "Energy surge from the clouds!" another crew member yelled. But instead of tearing the ship apart, the storm around them began to calm. The energy waves bent around the Horizon Spear like a sea parting before a ship. "Impossible," Ray whispered. "The expanse is responding to us. It's opening." Everyone stared at the view. Outside the windows, the storm's bright lightning began to fade, revealing shapes hidden within, massive towers, floating cities made of dark metal, and colossal rings spinning slowly through the mist. "Captain," Mira said softly, "there are structures out there. Artificial ones." Ward's heart beat faster. "Record everything. We may be the first living beings to see this in thousands of years." They moved deeper into the heart of the expanse. Sensors picked up ancient energy fields, massive reactors still running after ages of silence. Every reading defied explanation. Then suddenly the ship's comm system crackled. A voice, not human, not machine, but something in between, spoke in an ancient tongue. Only a few words were translated by the system. Recognition. Founders detected. Access granted. The crew froze. Did it just say founders? Ray asked. Ward slowly sat down in his command chair. Replay that message, it repeated, clearer this time. Recognition. Founders detected. Access granted. Mira looked pale. Captain, are they calling us the Founders? No one answered. The ship continued to glide through the glowing clouds, now fully protected by invisible energy barriers. Every weapon system that had destroyed alien ships before now stayed silent. Every defense field lowered itself. The Horizon Spear was being allowed inside. Back in the galactic capital of ArctisPrime, panic spread across the council chambers. Reports from automated stations around the expanse confirmed it. Human ship entered restricted zone. No damage detected. Energy barriers deactivated. Delegates from dozens of races shouted over one another in fear and anger. The tall, scaled representative of the Erythian Dominion slammed his tail against the floor. This is unacceptable. The humans have violated a council decree. A slender, crystal-bodied being from the Varus Collective hissed. Then explain how they survived. Our ships are destroyed the moment they cross that line. At the center of the chaos, Ambassador Kira, the human delegate, remained calm. She adjusted her silver jacket and said softly, "Perhaps the zone recognized us." The chamber went silent. Recognized? The Erythian growled. What are you implying, human? Kira met his gaze. The Forbidden Zone is not random. Someone built it. Someone powerful. Maybe they were connected to us. Laughter and disbelief spread through the crowd. You think your primitive species is special? One shouted. Humans have existed for barely 10,000 years. Another scoffed, but Kira only smiled faintly. Yet somehow the zone didn't destroy us. The council's head chairperson, a massive avian creature named Jaren, struck the floor with his talon. Enough. We will form a research committee. Humans are to remain under observation. No further entry into the expanse is allowed until we understand what happened. Kira bowed slightly. Understood, chairperson. But inside, she felt something stirring, an ancient instinct, like a forgotten memory trying to awaken. Meanwhile, deep within the expanse, Captain Ward and his crew were moving closer to what appeared to be the central structure, a black sphere the size of a moon, covered in glowing patterns. This must be the source of the signal, Ray said, scanning the readings. Energy levels are off the charts. It's like a reactor, but it's alive, Ward nodded. Take us in slow. As the ship approached, the symbols on the sphere began to light up one by one as if greeting them. The voice returned through the comm. Welcome, descendants. The gates of the Founders are open once more. The ship's systems suddenly went quiet. Engines powered down, lights dimmed, and for a moment everyone thought they were trapped. Then a massive door on the sphere slowly opened, revealing a glowing corridor inside. Mira whispered, Captain, it's inviting us in. Ward stared at the sight, his eyes reflecting the golden light. Prepare landing team, he said softly. Let's see what waits for us. Hours later, the Horizon Spear vanished completely from Council sensors. The last message received from the human ship was short and simple, just one line sent across all frequencies. It opened for us. And then, silence. No trace. No wreckage. No distress call. Only the silent glow of the Valaris expanse now pulsing faintly, as if something within had awakened. For the first time in history, the galaxy was no longer sure who truly owned the stars.